Ezri Madonai, Osei Shamayim Varech. Ayiti Lorad Vecha, Yelum Shabrecha. Ine Eloi Rabbi Shan Shomer Yisrael. Adonai Shobrecha, Adretzucha Yad Minecha. Yomam Hashemesh Le'ekeh, Kavir Yach B'Layla. Adonai Yishmarcha Mikol Ra, Yishmor Es Nafshecha. Adonai Yishmor Tzeitzcha B'Lecha, V'yata V'yadolai.
The next speaker is going to be Debbie Spiro, but she's on recorded and we'll have her on the screen in a moment. There at each table, there's a order of the program. Just want to say, unfortunately, Rabbi Karen Steinberg is not able to come. He sends his regrets.
I was asked to say a few words about my father this morning, but I had no idea where I should begin. And I realized that knowing when to end would be an even more difficult task. Instead, I decided to take this opportunity to express my never-ending gratitude to all of you, the people who were the closest to my father's heart for a span of 7 decades. I always believed that my father was destined for greatness from the moment his special neshama came into this world. He rose to the occasion with great aplomb, but with no fanfare. From the time he came to Kew Garden Hills in 1950 and began the legendary minyan with exactly 11 men in the basement of the Saperstein home, this shul and this community became inextricably intertwined with every fiber of my father's being. Nafshechem shurot b'nafsho. The community found in him a young and inspiring leader, the Rav who would march forward with them into the future, bringing with him the heritage of a rich past, deeply rooted in a world that was and is no more. He changed the face of this entire neighborhood, bringing his European flavor of Torah and Yiddishkeit to the homes of hundreds and thousands of families across the greater Queens area. He fought tirelessly for all that he believed in, primarily Jewish education, kashrut, and of course, Eretz Yisrael. He left an indelible footprint in the sands of time, and he made sure that there would be new leaders who would be there to guide the community after him. None of this could have evolved if not for all of you sitting here today. Ki et asher yeshno po imanu omeid hayom lefnei Hashem Elokeinu, vet asher einenu po imanu hayom. I am sure that the neshamot of all of our members throughout the years are sitting quietly and invisibly among us this morning, all joining in this tribute to the Rav they so admired and loved. As great as your love was for my father, I hope that you are all keenly aware of how much he loved each and every one of you. You are the community par excellence, always so appreciative, always so proud, and always so supportive of my parents and all of us. In later years, when other communities, perhaps more prominent or wealthier, tried to entice him to come to them, it was never a matter that was ever even considered. Anu kahalacha v'ata chalkenu. You were always his congregation, and he was always your portion in life. This was a bond that could never be severed, not in this world and not in the next. It was this relationship of mutual love and devotion that allowed my father to soar to such dazzling heights. Serving this incredible community was the inspiration that continuously drove him upwards and onwards. It is for all of this that I wish to thank you today, for your unremitting allegiance, for your undying loyalty, for your unconditional support, and for so much more. You are the congregation that enabled my father to accomplish all that he did in life. He shared his dreams with all of you, and together you made them come true. Achrona Chaviva, my closing words of eternal thanks and enduring love are for my mother, Aleha Shalom, your most beloved Rebbitzin. Without her, none of this would ever have come to be. Shali v'shalachem shalahi. All that we have and all that we are hers. Thank you all so much for allowing me this time this morning. Chanukah Sameach l'kulchem.
The next speaker will be Rabbi Schonfeld.
Thank you to Rebecca and Stewie for all their efforts in seeing to today's wonderful breakfast. Greatly appreciated. My father was many things to many people, but above all, he was the rabbi of the Young Israel of Kibbutz Hills, which he loved so much. My sister Debbie just referred to. So many times in the last 5 years, it's so hard to believe that it is 5 years. But so many times in the last 5 years, we would say amongst ourselves and the family, what would Daddy have said? What would he have said about the various issues that arise, political and personal? What would he have said with goings on in Gaza, to the ascendancy of Donald Trump, to the victory of Mamdani, to the Vada Rabbanim's issues that it has? What would Daddy have said? Personal matters, people having struggles. What would my father have said? So paying tribute to a multifaceted person who is missed on multiple levels. My father was comfortable with Yeshiva University, with the RCA, as he was with GER. And he had acquaintances with the Reform Rabbinate, priests, and even bishops. All held my father in great esteem. And I think part of the reason why he was comfortable swimming in so many different areas is because he is a Talmud of 3 different ways of thinking. Talmud Rabbi Yosef Ber Soloveitchik Zatzal, Talmud of Rav Hirsch, who he studied and knew his writings, and a Talmud of the Sfas Emes, who my father so often quoted. So I think that I thank once again Stewie and Rebecca for making this event, and all of the speakers who have come, and above all to you who have come here to commemorate this great man in Klal Yisrael. Amen.
Next speaker is Rabbi Yaakov Glasser, the guest speaker. The Glasser family goes back a long way with the Schonfeld family. Unfortunately, he's not well, so he's going to be speaking on Zoom. His topic is Illuminating the Way Forward, Hanukkah and the Power of Jewish Leadership.
Thank you so much. It is a tremendous, tremendous honor to be able to share some words of Torah with you on the occasion of the Yahrtzeit of Rav Schonfeld, Zatzal. And I come sharing these words really from two different vantage points. On one hand, I come as a member of the larger Jewish community, someone who has the great privilege of playing a leadership role in the Jewish community, a community that has the great privilege of living a robust life of tremendous progress in terms of the broader communal infrastructure that we all take for granted, that we all enjoy, that is all the product of a generation of pioneering Rabbanim who invested the totality of themselves in an era where resources were scarce, where it required tremendous courage and tenacity, where sometimes they had to hold steadfast to unpopular opinions and maintain the course in advancing the elevation of the standards of the Jewish community's Torah observance and of all of the different elements that were required in order for all of us to find ourselves where we currently are. And all of us of every generation are really the beneficiaries of these incredible heroes, these icons of American Jewish leadership, and certainly Rosh HaChabura among them, Rav Schonfeld. I also come with less anonymity as part of a family who's been the direct beneficiaries of the leadership and of the chesed and of the Torah, of the education, of the inspiration of Rabbi Schonfeld and his entire family. As many of you are aware, my father in his formative years was part of this incredible, illustrious shul. My father learned to daven for Yomim Noraim, and in later years, with us all in attendance, led the davening on Yomim Noraim in this beautiful shul. And I spent many Rosh Hashanahs and many Yom Kippurs sitting sometimes in the downstairs minyan, sometimes in the upstairs minyan. And I have to tell you that even though I am now 20 years along as the Rav of a shul in Passaic, there is still nigunim that while my chazan is singing his nigunim, me in the back of my head, I still hear some of the young Israel of Kew Garden Hills nigunim, as well as some of the characters and fellows that used to pop up at different points in the tefillah with their signature personalities. And it was a formative and an incredibly inspiring opportunity for my own development, and I know for that of our family, to be able to reconnect to a place of such formative significance for our family. And I can truly say that if it weren't for Rabbi Schonfeld and what he built in this community, not just the shul, but also the school and the educational programming that were available, I know that I certainly would not be who I am today, and I know that that is true about the many, many thousands of descendants of those who are present right now on this Zoom. I want to talk about, because we are really only hours away from the lighting of the first candle of Hanukkah. And so I would like to bridge the world of Hanukkah to Jewish leadership for just a few minutes, and to do so in tribute to the unique and incredible impact that Rabbi Schonfeld has had on the Jewish people. We know that when Hanukkah begins, we will read a series of kriyos, a series of kriyas HaTorahs over the course of the Chag, each one depicting the sacrifices that were brought by a particular leader of a particular tribe in the dedication of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. And all this will culminate on Zos Chanukah, on the 8th day of Hanukkah, when we will read not of the particular tribes, but we will read of the contribution of Aaron HaKohen. Because Aaron HaKohen, the Torah tells us at the beginning of Parshas Ba'aloscha, is instructed in particular in the context of this incredible event of dedicating the Mishkan. Aaron is told, you have the responsibility to light the menorah. And this is where we first encounter the menorah in the context of the Torah as a unique and iconic object of Jewish ritual, one that will reverberate throughout generations all the way until today. And Aaron is told it's your responsibility to light the menorah. And Rashi on that pasuk wonders why we are introducing this particular ritual in accordance with Aaron. And asks Rashi, Lama nismecha parshas menorah leparshas nisiim. Why are we talking about the menorah right next to the dedication of the Mishkan? And Rashi answers that when Aaron saw all the Jewish leaders contributing to the dedication of the Mishkan, and he saw that he was not called upon to contribute in that way, Cholsha azdato shel Aaron. Aaron became extremely despondent. He was very upset. So Hashem said to him, Aaron, don't be upset. Shelcha gidola mishelahem. Your role is actually greater than all of those other leaders. Sha'ata madlik umeitiv esaneros. Because you are going to light and you are going to kindle the menorah. And therefore, Rashi essentially establishes that this is given to Aaron as a privilege, as something unique, that everyone else, all of the other leaders of the Jewish people, would simply be involved in contributing a particular sacrifice to the dedication. But somehow your contribution would be manifest through this unique experience of kindling the lights of the menorah in the Mishkan Hashem. And the question on this Rashi is very simple. The Rambam tells us that there are many things that happened in the Beit HaMikdash, there are many things that happened in the Mishkan that required a Kohen, that required a priest. But there were a few things that happened in the Beis HaMikdash that did not require a Kohen. And one of the things that did not require a Kohen, writes the Rambam in Ilchos Bias HaMikdash, was the lighting of the menorah. The lighting of the menorah, says Maimonides, could be done by any Jew. And then the Rambam asks himself, how would a Jew go into the Beis HaMikdash and light the menorah? You can only go in if you're a Kohen. And the answer is, says the Rambam, that that's not how it would happen. The Kohen would take the menorah. He would move it outside the walls of the Beis HaMikdash. A regular person, not a Kohen, would light that menorah, and then he would bring it back into the Beis HaMikdash and set it down. And this, says the Rambam, was an acceptable approach if you wanted to honor someone, if you wanted to engage someone who is not a priest, who is not a Kohen, in the process of the illuminating experience of kindling the menorah. And the question is so obvious. If the lighting of the menorah was given to Aaron HaKohen as a privileged, compensating opportunity to mitigate his despondency in the fact that he wasn't permitted to be part of the larger dedication of the Mishkan, if lighting the menorah is privilege, is unique contribution, how is it that it's something that exists within the domain of potential for any Jew? It's supposed to be something unique to Aaron. So I want to share with you an answer to this question that I think surfaces a unique aspect of Aaron's leadership and also echoes, I think, a unique aspect of Rabbi Schonfeld's contribution as well. And that is, we know that these two brothers, Moshe and Aaron, were very different. Moshe Rabbeinu was what I would describe as a top-down leader. He was a leader that was somewhat disconnected from the people. He could exist on the top of a mountain for 40 days and 40 nights without food and drink. He descends with a radiance that shines forth from his face that makes him somebody that's almost unapproachable. He's someone who has had to live his life in terms of his mundane realities, disconnected from the normative experience of human existence, because he served as this conduit between the transcendence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the realities of the people to give the Torah to Am Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu is all the way at the top, and Moshe Rabbeinu's nevuah, his prophecy, was unique and was different and distinct from anyone. Moshe Rabbeinu is essentially an unachievable level for a normal human being. Aaron HaKohen was the opposite. The Mishnah tells us that Aaron was a man of the people Aaron was an Ohev Shalom, Virodev Shalom, Ohev es Abrios, Mekarvan LaTorah. Aaron HaKohen believed in people. Aaron HaKohen, the Rambam tells us in his Perish HaMishnayos that Mishnah would walk the streets of the desert and he would encounter individuals that were struggling, individuals who were not observant, individuals who did not keep Shabbos or did not keep kosher, who did not comport to the expectations of Torah life. And you know what Aaron HaKohen would do? He would not rebuke them. He would not distance them. Nosan lo shalom, Aaron would embrace them. And through embracing them, the Rambam says, Aaron would invest within them a sense of confidence that they didn't see within themselves. Because when someone greater than us sees capacity and potential within us, it opens up vistas of possibility that we don't even necessarily acknowledge we have within ourselves. And so Aaron had this unique ability to reach people by facing them, by being with them, not from the top of the mountain, but holding their hand through the streets of the camps of Israel. And so when Aaron is standing at the dedication of the Mishkan and he's looking at his next phase of his career in his contribution to the Jewish people, and Aaron realizes that he is about to become the minister of this sacred space of the Mishkan Hashem, of the temple. And Aaron begins to understand that he is going to be responsible for such an elevated space of sanctity, that Aaron's going to be responsible for this connection to the Oli of Olies, to all the sacrifices. Aaron begins Chol Sha'az Datu. You know what he was worried about? That he would no longer be with the people. That to be the pious one, to be the leader, to be the one who ministers the sanctuary means to be apart and distinct from the people. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, Shalcha Gidola Mishelahem, Aaron, you got it wrong. You know what your job is? Sha'ata madlik umeitiv asaneros. Your job is to take the menorah from within the temple, carry it out to the people, and inspire them to light it of themselves. Your job is to help people discover the capacity that they have within themselves. Your job is not to dominate and manage and direct. You know, we are all called a nation of Kohanim, Mamleches Kohanim. Even though a Kohen is a unique and distinct tribe. Why? Because the job of a Kohen, says Rav Tzadok, is to help every Jew discover the kahuna within themselves. Every Jew has the capacity to light that menorah. Every Jew has the ability to illuminate the world. Every Jew has the ability to make a contribution and make a difference to the Jewish people. But sometimes it takes an Aaron HaKohen who may be anchored in the world of the temple, but has the courage and has the love and has the commitment to be able to carry that menorah outward and help people see their ability to light that menorah themselves. There are rabbinic leaders who spend their career and spend their lives in the four walls of the study hall. And there is no question that is a life that is immersed in a world of total sanctity and total scholarship, and is one that allows an individual to broaden and to write and to impact and to advance in their own ability to develop Torah ideas and all of these things. And that is one model of Moshe leadership. And then there are leaders who anchored in that study hall, anchored in the Beis Medrash, anchored in the Beis Hamikdash, understand how to take the values of Judaism, the values of Torah, the menorah of the Jewish people, and bring it out into the world, into the domain of every conceivable corner where we could be Mekadesh Shem Shamayim, where we could sanctify God's name, whether it's in spaces of larger advocacy on behalf of the Jewish people in Washington, whether it's in spaces of dealing with other denominations, whether it's in spaces of outreach and going to the people who have not yet discovered the richness and beauty of Torah, whether it's in just bringing it to the main streets of the Jewish communal world, to be able to see the capacity within themselves to create a vibrancy and an ascendance sense of aspiration of what Jewish communal life could be, to help us see the capacity we have to light a flame that illuminates the world. And that is the treasure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us in Rabbi Schonfeld Zatzal, a rabbinic leader who, believe me, could have devoted his life to scholarship and piety alone, and could have, I'm sure, produced voluminous amounts of writings and all sorts of things, and that could have been his legacy, but he was unsettled in such a reality. For him, being in the Beis Hamikdash was about bringing the menorah outward and was about impacting the larger Jewish world and the larger Jewish people. And for that, each and every one of us participating today are the beneficiaries of that commitment, of that ambition, and of that great tzidkus that he brought to every single thing that he did. Yehi zichro baruch, may we live our lives and perpetuate his legacy towards the next generation to uphold this great, great, incredible contribution that he made to our community and beyond.
We're gonna change the program a little, and the next speaker will be Dr. Moshe Breidauer, nephew of Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld.
Good morning. Bershus Kol Harabanim that are here. Some I recognize, some I don't. I do feel that it's my obligation out of respect to recognize my own Willick, who's here. Wasn't expecting it. Everything I say with respect. If you rebut anything I say, I apologize ahead of time. But I would like to suggest to this austere audience this morning that if you think you came to a Yahrtzeit Suda, I think this is the Muhammad against the Yevanim. Why didn't they say Halavado right then and there? Why did they wait at all? And who knows how many years? I don't know how many years they waited. Shana Peres Rashi doesn't comment. How many was it? 1 year? Was it 5 years? I don't know. Maybe somebody knows. You can educate me. But why did they wait at all? So I would like to maybe suggest that they waited because they were troubled by the Beis Yosef's question. The famous Beis Yosef's question is, the first night of Hanukkah, they found the Pach Shevet, they found a little oil, and they lit it, and then miraculously they had oil for the next 8 days. But says the Beis Yosef, the first night wasn't a miracle. They found oil, they lit it. So why do we celebrate Hanukkah 8 days? Should have been Hanukkah 7 days. There are 100 answers to this question, and I'm not going to go through them. We'll miss Hanukkah lighting tonight. But I'd like to focus on Rav Moshe's answer. Rav Moshe in Kol Rav asks this question, and he offers the following answer. He says, we all know what a nace is, but we make the mistake of seeing nature as nature, and that's a mistake. Nature is also a nace. The fact that, as my Rabbi Willigo says, when a healthy baby is born, that's the biggest miracle of all. And I agree. Knowing as a physician what can go wrong during 9 months of pregnancy, a healthy baby is a big nace. The fact that somebody walk on the street and not fall, well, but you expect not to fall. But then when you hear about somebody who did fall, you say, it's a nace, I didn't fall. And that's what we say in davening every day in Modim. Al Yisecha Shebachol Yom Imanu. Says Rav Moshe, the reason we have Hanukkah for 8 days is to recognize that even what we think is nature is also a miracle. With this background, I'd like to therefore suggest that the community of Kew Gardens Hills views itself probably as, this is what happens. Jews move into a neighborhood, friends invite other friends to move in, and the community grows, and over time, you have a wonderful community. And I believe that that is a mistake. I think the community of Kew Gardens Hills owes itself to Rabbi Schonfeld, who I was privileged to be his nephew for some 30 years. And I will tell you that many, many years ago, Rabbi Schonfeld and I used to talk a lot. And I asked him one time, to what do you attribute the success of this neighborhood? I mean, why is it? Look, there are lots of other neighborhoods which, you know, they're nice Jewish neighborhoods. Riverdale, where I live, is among them, but we're not on the level of Kew Gardens Hills in terms of the number of people who live here. Why do you think Kew Gardens Hills was so successful? And his answer to me was, because anytime a new shul opened up, I was the first one to welcome them. And I said, my hi, why, what's competition? He said, no, it's not competition. I recognized as a Rav, I can't possibly accommodate every type of Jew there is. There's Ashkenaz, there's Sfar, there's Yidut Mizrach, there's Hasidish, modern Orthodox, and there's so many types of Jews. I'm kidding myself if I think I can appeal to every single Jew. So the more Jews that move in, the more shuls that open up, it's going to invite different kinds of Jews. And that's good for the neighborhood. It supports the bakeries, it supports the butchers. The whole neighborhood gets strengthened. And therefore, he said, anytime a shul opened up, I was the first one to personally welcome the Rav. I told him, if you're sure to meet me, you call me up. I'll send some people over from my shul. I want to make sure success. I would like to suggest that the same way the Kohen relit the menorah every night of Hanukkah, so too Rabbi Schonfeld relit the community every time a shul opened up. That was his nace. His nace was that he recognized that every shul, Torah or every shul, the light of Torah shines through every single shul in its own unique way. And so my suggestion to the community is that just like the Gemara says that the Nes Chanukah, the Chachamim decided they should establish a yontif of Hallel B'Hodah. Hallel, we know, is for being saved. I don't think Rabbi Schonfeld saved because nefesh in the neighborhood, but certainly Hodah. Hodah, we know from Modim, has two meanings. Hodah means to acknowledge, and it means to thank. Rav Hutner famously said, Modim anachnu loch sheh. When it says Modim sheh, it means to thank. When it says no delacha al, it means to acknowledge. I acknowledge that. The first thing the community of Kew Gardens Hills has to do is to acknowledge that it owes its success and existence to Rabbi Schonfeld. And secondly, it should find some way to not just have a breakfast in 5 years, but to recognize that its success is a nace. The fact that if you look at many other communities around the United States, the success of this community is a nace. It's not just something that happened, and there's an obligation of Hodah, of thanking and acknowledging what Rabbi Schonfeld did for this community. And I'd like to end with just my own. If I had to describe Rabbi Schonfeld, I saw a beautiful line that comes from the Rabbi Yonah, and I think it really, in a nutshell, describes Rabbi Schonfeld. It says, according to Rabbi Yonah, Uma tikvas hanivra im lo yosim amal nafsho v'ikar asako b'dvar asher nivra ba'avura. Translated, and what is the aspiration of somebody who was created? If not, that he should put the effort of his soul and the main effort of his involvement in that for which he was created. Rabbi Schonfeld understood he was created to teach Torah, to be Makaref people, to get involved even in national politics, to do what he could for Yiddishkeit, both on an individual level, a shul level, a communal level, and even on a national level. How many Rabbanim held the pulpit for over 60 years? He understood why he was created. He spent his whole life doing for that for which he was created. And to me, that is a role model how I think I and hopefully all of us should understand why we were created. And as Rabbi Schonfeld did, try to live our lives satisfying the reason that we think God put us on this world to begin with.
Thank you. Once again, we're going to be changing the program a little. The next speaker is Rabbi Yannick Meirav, who is going to speak about Rabbi Schonfeld, the Bulgarian community is dead to Rabbi Schonfeld. Thank you. I know we have 20,000 other things to do today.
Shalom Aleichem. Good morning, Yahrtzeit. Rishus all the Chasher Rabbanim. It's a big honor to be here. I apologize for being late. I had a shir and a bris, and Baruch Hashem afterwards I have another shir. So sorry for coming late and leaving early, but it's a big honor to be here. Just say a few words of Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld Zatzal Zechet Tzaddik Lebracha, a man that had vision. That it's not a one-man show. He's one that got others involved, and he encouraged others on a personal level. I could tell you how when I was very young and the Chazak started, Rabbi Schonfeld, Rabbi Fabian, encouraging, so uplifting, and always inspired and gave a smile, that oomph to continue forward even through the difficulties and hardships. And I'm forever indebted and thankful to the Rabbi. And with regard to the Bulgarian community, with what I understand, the first shul that was in the community started right here in this building. And they started up over here. And Baruch Hashem, thanks to Rabbi Schonfeld's encouragement. You heard, and I'm sure all of you know, the Rabbi encouraged. How many communities do you have that they encourage other communities to build? They usually have the, my way or the highway, but Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld encouraged others to build, to do more, and to make another shul. He had a vision for Kew Gardens Hills, and that is for it to be a Makom Torah, which it is Baruch Hashem today, and it's continuing, will continue to be, like the speaker said. And this is a lesson for every single one of us. How many opportunities do we have in our lives to encourage others, uplift others? And we see this with none other than this past week's parsha with Yosef Atzadik. Do you know why he was able to leave jail to become the viceroy of Egypt and for Am Yisrael to be able to go down there with Yaakov Avinu and the Shvatim to get food and then have the Gula? It's one reason and one reason only. And that is because he asked, Madua Panechem Ra'im, why is your face, why are you sad today? If he wouldn't have asked that question, if he wouldn't have cared for others, you know what would have happened? He would have minded his own business. The baker and the butler would have minded their own business. It would have never gotten the power to interpret the dreams, and who knows what would have been. And this is the lesson for every single one of us. We need to learn from Rabbi Schonfeld and care for others. I was told when I mentioned to a member of my kila that I'm going over here to speak. He's like, you should know that he helped with tuition. He helped with getting kids out of public school. Like, he started Chazak then. This is exactly what we've been doing, and he's been doing it for so many years before us. And this is a lesson for every single one of us. Not to just go through the day, but to grow through the day. We have two options in life, to be bitter or to be better. Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld went through a lot, as we all know. And he came to America and he did whatever he had to do, and he built this community to what it is today and continues to be. This is something we need to continue the legacy. We need to continue the legacy of doing more, always being able to do more. As we all know, Hanukkah is coming. We go upwards when it comes to holiness. We don't stay status quo. We don't take it easy. But Yaakov wanted to sit in tranquility. He wanted to take it a little bit easy, quote unquote. And Kafzala Yosef and the difficulties and the hardships with regards to Yosef being sold to Egypt happened to him. What is this coming to teach us? In Judaism, in spirituality, you have one of two ways. Either you're going up, and if you're not going up, you know where you're going? Going down. You cannot do status quo. You cannot be complacent. You can't say 1 week I'm taking off from Shabbos, Shabbat. I'm taking off from keeping kosher for a little bit. There is no such thing as that. When it comes to spirituality, we always go upwards. We always do more and more. And the accomplishments that the Rabbi has done and was mentioned, not just on a communal level, but on a national level, is something that I look up to and is very, very inspiring. And Birkat Hediyot is to the family and to the community and to all the Rabbi and to all the community leaders that are here. Is that just like he's done so much, we should be zocheh, we should merit to continue in his footsteps to continue to do good for the community, for Klal Yisrael, and we should be zocheh to have the ultimate light. The light of Hanukkah is amazing, but the ultimate light is the light of the Geulah, the redemption, with Chiyat HaMetim, the resurrection of the dead, with all of our loved ones, and Rabbi Fabian Shonah coming back to Hashem. It should be Be'me'ah Be'me'ah to spend their days. Amen, Amen.
Very pleased that our next speaker, Rabbi Mordechai Willard, was able to come. The Willard family and the Schonfelds go back a long, long way. I believe that Rabbi Willard was once youth director or youth leader at the shul.
Thank you very much. It's a major privilege for me to say a few words in honor of my rabbi. My family moved to this community in 1958, perhaps the heyday of the synagogue when I lived here 12 years till I moved out and got married. Many fond memories of interaction with Rabbi Schonfeld, Zichrono Livrocha, during those 12 years and thereafter. You know, tonight is Hanukkah, and the Mishnah Berurah at the very beginning quotes the contrast between Purim and Hanukkah. Purim are very Torah. We gave beautiful drushes. He took care of the spiritual needs of his community, passing the shilas, helping them on the spiritual path. But that was not the only thing. His first name was Mordechai. Mordechai, the Torah hero. But Mordechai had said that he, of course, took care of the physical needs of his community. He rallied B'nai Yisrael when the threat of Haman hung over their head. But he didn't only take care of his own community, Shushan, Abir, and beyond. He took care of so many other issues which related to the values as a whole. As a matter of fact, he was criticized. Well, there's posting of the Megillah that Mordechai was watching the role of the most of his brethren. Some of the Sanhedrin were upset with him. He spent too much time in what we call today politics. But of course, in politics, just to preserve the physical integrity of his folk, both nearby and throughout the world. This too, as Rabbi Schonfeld's first Hebrew name, was his role. In the community, he took care of everybody. Not only their spiritual needs, their physical needs, their emotional needs, their financial needs. Took care of everybody. Too many details discussed now, and some should be revealed even so many decades later. He was the rabbi. It's the problem. He was there for you. But his impact was felt well beyond this community, throughout the world, you might say. Particularly throughout the United States of America, where he occupied so many important positions. I'll tell you a personal story. One person, there's so many stories we can tell. My family was connected. I'm a little upset when they redid the group. They took my name down. My name was there for decades. One of the youth leaders, when they redid the room, it's not there. My father's name, Tzipun is still on the chair right behind the beamer where he sat. And thanks to Rabbi Schonfeld, sad note, the lives of both of my parents took place right over here in the Yahrtzeit of Kibbutz Hills, filled to the capacity with the rabbi's permission. But tell two stories. The first story happened in 1963, when I was a featured speaker at the Youth Shabbos. Once a year, the Youth Shabbos, and the youth did everything. We laid, we davened, I was the speaker. And he ran after me and he told my father, this young man, I was a junior in high school, he's going to be a rabbi. It's the first one who predicted it, and I guess he was right. But the other story happened a little more than a decade later, when I was privileged to be in a car with him and my wife, and Rabbi Holzer, his longtime associate with Rabbi Soloveitchik back from the Sheva Brothers. And Rabbi Schonfeld told to Rabbi Soloveitchik, he said, don't you think that I should join the Rabbinical Council of America? And the Rav said, yes, please join the RCA. And the rest is history. Since that time, which is literally 1974, talking about more than 50 years ago, I was with Rabbanas. I've been an active member, organization, invested. It's all thanks to Rabbi Schonfeld. So therefore, I feel that this illustrious rabbi, this Mordechai Shraga Halevi, represents in his very name all these ideas. And Halevi, of course, Halevi, Yorvish Matech and Yaakov Saras for Israel. His primary role was a teacher both in his beautiful I remember the shira, I remember the drushes. I remember those drushes in Shabbos, Shabbos, you put on a talis, and the older days he speaking Yiddish. These memories are etched in my mind. One of the few who remember the first reference. I strong memory when I just moved in that, see, just a year, she suddenly just passed away. I was away to summer camp. Just suddenly. I still remember how he recuperated, how we remarried, the blended family. It was just for us a tremendous role model. But as I began, he was our rabbi. He was our rabbi. And I think, therefore, we can say about him The Rosh Hashanah are saying, Mordechai Shraga Halevi, Rosh Hashanah Moshe, he was Moshe Rabbeinu. He was Moshe, our rabbi. Now Moshe Rabbeinu was told that he said he was 120 years old on that day. His days were completed. Tzaddikim is Hashem is Mamalish Doseim. I just saw in the little book that was given to me that he literally lived 97 years to the day. Had been born on December 14th and had passed away December 13th. Amazing. Look at how tzaddik he was. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Rabbi of our shul, our community, and so many others. Benefited from his wonderful presence, his wonderful teachings. The Hey Nishmas of Shul B'Tzorachai.
The next speaker is also pre-recorded. It's Rabbi Schonfeld's granddaughter, Shira Good, who's Aviva's daughter.
Hi, it's Ruth Klefka. I just want.
Nope, not that one. Not that one. This one's one I couldn't find. This is the one I couldn't find. Very good day.
I would like to share a story, a memory of a story that I actually overheard a long time ago, many years ago. Story that took place on a plane when my grandfather, Zidane Jr., was on the way to Israel, and he was sitting next to an Israeli guy, and he didn't have a kippah on his head. And they got into some discussion, and the guy said, "Well, look, I am Chiloni, I'm not Dati." And Zidane Jr. didn't like that term that he chose. And he said, "Don't say about yourself that you're Chiloni. Chiloni comes from the word sand. Sand, there's like nothing to it. You can't plant anything. It blows away in the wind. It's not a good term to use about yourself. It's not a nice term to say about Am Yisrael." And he says, "Look, I'm sure you are Dati in some way." And he sat with him and he tried to think with him what kind of mitzvot he does keep anyway. And I don't exactly know which mitzvot they spoke about, but somewhere along the way of you brought maybe a cup of water to your parents, maybe you went to shul on Yom Kippur. So you see, you are mekayem a mitzvah. Maybe you're not very dati, so you can just say that you're dati, but not very, very dati. And this little story really goes with me since I heard it, and always reminds me of three basic messages that I should think about when I meet people. And the first message is don't label people. Don't go and hurry up and just look at the external appearance and decide that he's this kind of a religious or that kind of a not religious, dati, chiloni. It's wrong. Always look into the soul, into the pnimiut of the person, to his neshama. And the third thing is always look for the good in the person, because every person has something good in him. And I really try to keep this with me when I meet people, when I think about people. and also maybe I just want to finish with a cute story that my grandmother, my beloved grandma Ruth, told me. She was telling me that she went to a fancy wedding and she was sitting with all the Rebbitzins at the table, and one of her granddaughters was supposed to come pick her up, and she's waiting for her to come, and all of a sudden she sees her walking into the hall. And Grandma said, oh my God, I didn't know what I was going to do because she came so inappropriately dressed for the wedding. She had pigtails. She had a big yellow smiley on her face. She was wearing this funny jean skirt and sneakers, totally not appropriate for this fancy wedding. And Grandma said, between the minute that I saw her until she came to the table, I had time to get myself together and tell everyone, hey, this is my granddaughter. I'm very proud of her. So these are two special memories that go with me, and Bezat Hashem, they should be Melitz Yosher for Am Yisrael, and we should all take from these messages from my dear grandfather Zedi Jr. and Grandma Ruth. Thank you.
Dr. Paul Brody, who's giving us a treat with a slide presentation, vintage slides from the Rabbi Schonfeld.
So, my name is Paul Brody. And growing up, I was very short. My name is Spencer, so I was called Pinky from Spencer. People thought because I was short, you see in a few minutes the picture, they said, when they met me years later, they said, I still call you Pinky because you're tall. They had nothing to do with it, but okay. So our family, my parents, Fabian and Brody, they born in the world. We moved here in 1954, 2 years before Rabbi really even, I didn't know anything. And I was, remember, I lived very well, all the time. But I grew up with Rabbi Schonfeld. He was a year younger than me, he still is. You have continued for 4 later. So, it's difficult to encapsulate one's thoughts and feelings for Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld or Mordechai Schreiber Bible, Ben Shmuel Shabtai Levi, that's all. In just a few minutes, one of Rabbi Rabbi Willie was saying, Mordechai Schreiber Levi, I thought, maybe he said it, I got to hear it. I thought he was going to say, Mem Shinlam, he was a marshal, such an example for all of us. Unbelievable. And Marty Graveyard, who is near Henry NYU, we're together in physics, gave, now he's not with that neighbor to get the great, but coming back to young little June, Wisconsin, talking, diving whenever I can, with the Dominion, I just love this shul. There's a great course I told right across the street, Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld way. So I don't think anyone's ever going to forget our great rabbi. So I actually basically had a close relationship with the rabbi for over 65 years, and I'm only 50. All right. So as I said, we moved here in 1954, but we almost didn't make it staying in the shul, because when we moved here, somebody, not the rabbi, somebody said, get that kid off the seat. We don't have enough seats, because we had a very small building. Let's go there, yeah. Go back, go back to one more slide, if you don't mind. We go back to the second point. Yeah, that happens to you, my parents over there, okay? And that's me when I was a teenager, and some there's Rebecca Rushfield right there. Okay, and there's some others you might recognize, especially that table over there. Show the building, how small it was. Well, let's go forward. This is, first of all, you know how they always make a mistake, they say Kew Garden Hills instead of Kew Gardens Hills, like it's annoying. Well, here they wrote Kew Hills, see, they didn't even know it's a garden. Okay, but that was like, this is from this famous book that was put out on the 18th anniversary of the high dinner, where I still have that from my parents, I like it, okay? And we're going to look at it, let's look at it carefully for a little home. And it has great stuff, and that's where I got a lot of the slides from. So this is when they bought the house, there's the rabbi, dapper, very dapper, too. I don't think he had smeared yet, he was sliced his name, is that right? And he was, but I'm gonna show you his star, and you think of one, so don't worry. Okay, go ahead, let's go to the next slide. So here's the rabbi, Matt Chapterstein, the shul started in that basement, right? And there's the building, I think that was, okay, I think that's the present site of the youth building, the Havis youth building. So that got knocked down, but I think it was a building right before that originally. So we went to Rabbi Glenn table, but there was no seat for me. And I was the first boy ever in Rabbi Glenn table before his daughter was even born. And I think my parents were like, they were the only American there, but we still have lifelong friends from that shul. But I'm saying, well, we came back, and the rest, I guess, it's history with us being strong up to shul, me and Rabbi Schonfeld. Let's see what the next slide brings us. So this is the groundbreaking of this building on in 1955. I remember Moshe Prop, I remember him, he was the architect of the son of Fabian Prop. Okay. Yep. Thank you. Okay, so here's more from that groundbreaking. Okay. And this was the architect's rendition. I think it's pretty good, pretty accurate, what turned out right. And it's rest is history on that, okay? Here, over here, these are some of the presidents. But it shows you the order of things. The youth center was constructed in 1962. That building was in, what we say, 55. And this is the synagogue, 66, 67. Rabbi Holzer, we used to have chairs that, you know, like wooden chairs that we had to clamp together to run Shoni on the paper. And I was on, my father was the head of that committee or the assistant, and I used to help him. And Rabbi Schonfeld wrote me a letter. Rabbi Schonfeld was great, as you heard from many other speakers before me. Keeping up, if you had, someone had a baby, someone was sick, he goes to the hospital all the time to visit. I remember my friend Benji Lopati, who wrote something in this tribute book over here. It's a great book put together by Stephen Kennedy and Rebecca Rushfield. I'm sure many of you have seen this and contributed to this. Benji Lopati wrote that we're going all the way to Scranton to visit Benji's wife, Betsy, St. Chipper. Okay, we can go to the next one. This is the star of the, and that's what Bible, I don't know why that's a Raga, Benchumsi, maybe, okay. I remember your grandfather very well. That's from YU Rabbi Belkin. And these, okay, so let me just go on here. So we did come back, as I said, for Hashem, and then we became active. And a lot of us became volunteer youth leaders. That was, I came to this idea. I just highlighted the names, you know, I didn't know who was going to be here today exactly. I know the Amons, I think, were here. There's Diane Brody, my sister Paul Brody, Renee Brown, my cousin Renee Brown. So it's carpeting, kind of that was president. Okay, and maybe some other people who are on that list. You can look at it, you can come to me if you want to go over the list. Okay. This is the letter to the old. This is a letter, remember I discussed this with you. This letter is from October of 1966. I'm called Brody, but they're thinking. And he writes, thank you for helping with the high holidays to me of planting the seeds together. Here's a good one, Odelia. We hope that you will develop your latent abilities for leadership in the Jewish community. Okay, I hope I be good, Rabbi. Okay, I know latent, I was a teenager. Okay. Let's go on, I guess, to the next slide. Okay. Now, the Rabbi, as you know, did a lot of activism, and I'm sure he inspired us, each and every one of us here, in many ways. Aaron Lipsius, who grew up in their shul, he came to me in the basement, you know, a few yards away that way. He said, want to come with me? I want to go to Russia to smuggle in 1985. I want to go to Russia to smuggle in Taos and Tefillin. Well, I'm kidding. But we did it. He arranged everything basically for them. And I said, I want to read the Megillah. If we go to Leningrad, first we went to Moscow, then we went to Leningrad. I said, I want to read the Megillah. He said, you're nuts. You're going to get thrown in jail. Now, in those days, by the way, the first time I ever read the Megillah was in this shul. It was a Motzei Shabbos. And Rabbi Schonfeld gave me permission. I was pretty young. He said, you can do it, but you have to be allowed because the big shul, which it was. It was not so easy. But Baruch Hashem. So I wanted to read the Megillah there. In those days, if you don't become a communist, you know, they kill you. So they said, better read, R-E-D, than dead. So I said, better read, R-E-A-D, than dead. And I read it, and I'm here. Okay. So there I am, young guy with a mustache, black, okay? And at the Leningrad synagogue. And over here, these are just my humor, photo credit, unnamed comrade. Okay. All right, the next slide, please. And this is, you know, I had the sorts of teaching many boys in great depth. I went to Hebrew Academy, after I was starting to read the Megillah, and now everyone has to go to school, even if it's on a Sunday this way. A lot of parents and grandparents who might not come to the Megillah hear it, and they hear their kids when they get Yiddish and others. Okay. Now, these are the, I think I'm going to use this slide twice, but as far as activism goes, we had Rabbi Shlomo Goren. You remember that? Who remembers that? Anybody remember that when he came? So Rabbi Shlomo Goren, you know, who the chief rabbi somehow, who blew the shofar at the hotel in 1967. So remember, your father said he gave him such praise, unbelievable praise, that Rabbi Goren has fantastic sense of humor. By the way, my mother and Rabbi Goren came from the same town. At my mother's Rabbi, which was on Tisha B'Av, Joey's mother passed away on Tisha B'Av. Years later, my mother passed away. I said from that town of Temperava that the second most famous family was Rabbi Goren's. Okay, but Rabbi Goren got up and said, if your father gave him effusive praise, said, Mikshar Shvachos Shekhodam in front of. You only say a partial praise in front of a person. So he said, he proclaimed, Rabbi Goren, I must be a great man. Oh, okay, all right. So these are the influences. If people who influence, everybody knows the Ger Rabbi was a big influence in Rabbi. Paul Hirsch. I didn't know Rabbi David Stern particularly. Dr. Belkin, of course. Rob, of course, Ger Rabbi. And we had another visit, chief rabbi. Chief Israeli rabbi at that time from Hotam in Cake. I don't remember his visit particularly. Okay. And there's when Menachem Begin came, that was a big thing. This was in 1971. I guess he was still in the opposition party. Okay. All right. There. Like that one? So let me just follow my notes a little bit. So when I would visit different places world over, let's say, they say, so you're a rabbi, Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld? Wow. And it always gave me great pride to say yes, and he's my rabbi. And Rabbi Yoel said, after the Batila, Joey wrote in the Queen Jewish Link. He wrote that my father was at home with every facet of Jewry, and that's what I was showing before, the different influences of his life. And he also mentioned that he was a Ger Chassid, as I said, and he surely admired and identified with that since, there's a quote from you, that our family, I identify with that, because our family was descendants of the Nate Sosar, that my father named Sili Miller, the Denver Regiment. Now our family, like all your families, experienced a multitude of wonderful experiences with Rabbi Schonfeld. He danced. Okay. He danced with exuberance with me, my father, at my bar mitzvah.
No.
All right. There it is over there. in the right corner. I called it a rabbi for all seasons because that's all he was. He was just helping you learn from everyone else and you experience it yourself. So next one again. That's me. I told you I was short, pinky. And here's a rabbi without a beard. See, in those days things were different. Okay? All right. Same other picture in the background. Anybody know? I mean, I know this, but I don't know if you know. Okay, that's not that picture. Okay. Now here's the then moving on. I finally got married. Okay, and my wife is Israeli, Temaniyah, Yemenite, so you don't see her, it's a little dark over there, okay? That's my mother, if you remember, her, Brody, and my sister Beryl, and my niece Rena Lister, and that's my son. This is my wife's sister who lives in Israel, of course, and she has her own family. Look at the rabbi, such hasmada. Look at his facial expression making the bracha. And believe me, he made hundreds of those brachas under the program. Okay, so I think he was thanking God that I finally got married as I was. Okay. Here's a great picture. I can scream. Okay, that's me when I looked a lot younger. Okay, it's my father was home. This is David Cohen, came from my wife's side. He went to Cuba. This is my Rebbe from YCQ in the Yeshiva School, Queens, Rabbi Kerry Acker from Cubanics. This is my Rebbe from the Yeshiva School, Queens, Rabbi Moshe Piper. This is one of Morello, also there. And here's, of course, Rabbi Schonfeld. That's all. Okay. And this is just an encapsulation of those pictures. I'll talk about that one later. When I went to visit the Kever on the first Yahrtzeit, I was in Israel. I have two daughters who live in Yerushalayim, Baruch Hashem, and we invited Aviva, the Bechorah, Pincha, and her husband Bernie, and they came to the wedding. And I said, I'm in Israel. I would love to visit your father's Kever. So we worked it out. A few days later, she picked me up, and we went. She's the photographer. The she photo credit is missing, but it's Aviva, and I think she's listening from Israel, of course. So this is in Har HaMenuchot. During COVID, as you see. But she told me that I was the first non-family member to visit Kever. Okay. This is a wonderful picture for me. My aunt Naomi Brody, my father's brother Noel Brody, just passed away a year ago, Rosh Hashanah. This is their wedding in 1954. Okay, I think a lot of you knew my uncle Mel Brody was an electrician in Cuban Hills, and moved to West Hempstead, etc. So here's young Rabbi Schonfeld. Here's Mel Brody, and this is my grandfather Joseph Brody, who went in. My son and I had 4 girls and a boy, called Yosef Shai. But Rabbi at my son's bris came in 1999, 26 years ago. He came and he said that he didn't make a move in the shul, in the early stages, without consulting with my grandfather. But I don't really know how that happened because he wasn't that kind of guy. My grandfather, the rabbi wouldn't make up stories. So that's my grandfather Joseph Brody. And interestingly enough, the picture that my aunt Naomi put in this blue book also included my mother's brother, Rabbi Jacob Brown. Razi, you remember him, Jacob Brown. Now, I'm going to make it. Is anyone bored? Okay. Anyway, I'm going down memory lane. Okay, this is our group started the youth meeting. You know how? I gotta go. Okay, I'm not in Wales, but I'll cut it short. Okay, so I'm a time. Okay, so our group started the youth meeting. My group, me, Jacob Weifel, David Friedman, Gary King, etc. So this is some of the bar mitzvah boys. Again, it's in this book, which is pretty good. And here's Julian Schonfeld, Rabbi Yoel. This is your picture over here at your bar mitzvah. Pretty good, huh? That's me, that's him. With some of the dad's boys, getting married, etc. Okay, next line, yeah. This is that same picture I told you before. Right. This is now, and I just want to say, in the youth, how Rabbi really learned Rabbi Willard learned to speak and he became a rabbi. So we learned to daven Tiyomid. So we had the privilege of davening Tiyomid, which I did a few times upstairs. And Oscar Goldman was the chazan, as everyone remembers. Paul Glasses, we're going to see the come all the way in a few minutes. Learned the nusach from him, as I did. And here's Oscar Goldman over there. Oscar Goldman, who, by the way, supposedly saw the menorah that were taken from the Beis Hamikdash in the Vatican. Same Oscar Goldman. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Here's Paul Glasser, and these things got different. Okay. And then Rabbi Rushfield, of course, had a great Talmud Torah, which people like Jacob Stroh over there, standing up and not listening to me, went to, and Paul Glasser went there. I think the Amons went there. A lot of important people went there, came on to do important things in the world of Jewry. I didn't go there. I went to YCQ. Okay. Here, of course, was President Sui Representative over there. This is the naming of the street, which we did give Hakora Sato to the neighbor gave Hakora Sato to Rabbi. I'm with you. This is a Kevarosa that Abiba helped my daughter, two of my daughters got 20 bucks. Kevarosa with Miriam Madani, but Abiba helped them. Okay. This is I sang the Hatikva over here when Curtis Lewa came. Right? First time I ever actually stood at the podium. First time I ever stood at the podium, no one really stood over here. They stood on the side. Okay, let's go on.
No, that's it.
And so the rabbi was the rabbi Paul seated. I'm going to end by saying a quote from Philadelphia, which is right there in the back. Okay, I was reading through this book over Shabbos, again reviewing it, and she wrote, and we can all relate to this. She said, how appropriate that Rabbi Schonfeld was nifter on Hanukkah on the third day because he gave so much light and helped lighten the burden of so many. And how appropriate on the third day, the day Hashem created dry land and plants. The seeds that he has sown in Kibon Hills have taken root, and their roots have spread near and far, and will continue well into the future. Thank you, everybody.
Next, we're gonna ask Paul Glasser to say the Kalmale Rachman, and after that, we'll do benching. Dr. Konigsberg, will you lead the benching after the Kalmale?
Okay. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I just want to say that I don't think that anybody thanked Rebecca Leonard for putting together. I thank you that she puts together most of the events, and so she's really a very, very important person here at the Young Israel. I'd like to say only the following: in my career, especially davening here for 17 years on Rosh Hashanah, I've said Hineni 150 times. Inside of Hineni, it says the Chol Tzor Oseinu V'Inu Yenu Afach Nalonu U'Lechol Yisrael L'Sason L'Simcha Chayim U'Shalom. And what that is all about is the ability for all of us to take the tsaros and the difficulties that we have. And every year we come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we come with a whole peckle of that which we would like to change and see good things from. And so we say, that it should be changed into Simcha Usasa. And actually, the change into Simcha Usasa is also a hint to Purim, because it's Yom HaKippurim. And some of you could remember, I don't think, but when I sing the Shehecheyanu on Yom Kippur night, I do it to the same nusach as Purim, because it's Yom HaKippurim. And I believe that what Rabbi Schonfeld Zatzal gave to this community is he was able, in a singular way, he was able to transform everyone's sorrows and difficulties and challenges. He was able to change them into sason and simcha and chaim and shalom. And I believe that that kind of commitment over 60 years, and a commitment followed by Rabbi Yoel Schonfeld, who also took what his father had done and brought it to other levels not seen before. And then to the current rabbi, who has been able in a difficult neighborhood situation to keep this shul going and to have wonderful events and to watch over its members. And so as we take and look at the fifth Yahrtzeit, you know, it's hard to really imagine that he's not here when he always is with us. And as we light the Nero tonight, and candles only go in one direction, no matter which way you turn them, the fire goes up, and it is the fire of the commitment of this Rav that made a difference for 60 years at the young Israel of Kew Gardens Hills, the neighborhood, the country, and the world beyond. Please rise. Kedoshim uteorim kizor kia mazeirim es nishmas Moreinu v'Rabbeinu Ben Shmuel Shabtai Alevi She'olach Li'olam She'olach Lo Timtzocha Bares Koras Nishimoso Began Eden Ten Choso Lochein Balchamim Yastireu V'Seiser Kinachov Li'olamim V'Yitzror Yisrachayim Es Nishmoso and we know you never so. Yonua al Mishkavo Bisholahu Venomar Oh
Thank you now, but when you leave, please take the leftover food. There's so many bagels left.